Hey guys, what's up? Hope you're well. Welcome back to my channel and welcome finally to my review of episodes 1 and 2 of House of the Dragon. We have got the dragon incense flowing, we've got the dragon top on, and we're ready to rock and roll and get into HBO's newest and biggest creation. And I've got to say, I'm going to be watching episode 3 after I film this, and I am just kind of tingling. I can just feel, my fingertips, head, shoulders, knees and toes. I can't wait to watch it. I can't wait to get back into that world and see what they've got in store for me. So got to say, they've done their job in that respect. They've kind of brought us back to that world where the TV is just raised up a level to a super sort of dynamic pitch, haven't they? Woo! What should we call this dragon, guys? I'm thinking like sake, kind of, the Asian spirit, something a little bit exotic. Let me know your thoughts on any names we should give him below. But yeah, there's obviously so much to talk about because it's been 2 weeks, so we're just kind of going to go through everything that happened kind of bit by bit, set up, where we are now and where they've taken us to and what kind of heights it hit and what heights I think it didn't hit, and where kind of, what I want to see more of, what I'm excited about, yeah, and just like what jumped out at you, like what jumped out at me. Let's go. So it begins, and that very first scene we had in episode 1, it looked beautiful, it looked gorgeous, just how I expected. I kind of felt like I was watching like a sort of like, it gave me a Harry Potter style kind of feel, or maybe like a biopic of like, some ancient English queen or English king. It had that very regal, very kind of stoic with the voiceover and all the lords and the ladies like gathered in the courtroom, and just that kind of tender, epic, almost kind of a Lord of the Rings. It had that old-fashioned kind of archaic storytelling style. I think it was still a level above because of how kind of stunning it looked. But I felt like with me, like, oh, I want a TV show to have like something to really grip me straight away. And TV is so good at the moment that sometimes they can do something so dynamic in their scenes, There can be something that instantly you care about so much, or you just feel you've never seen it before, or it just hits a note that it's never hit before. And in a way, I was kind of surprised that like we instantly went somewhere so kind of like cliche, and then like the next few scenes as well, they had that kind of epic feel. Instantly we get like a dragon scene flying through the clouds. Obviously it looks gorgeous, looks amazing, but again it just felt a little bit like a kind of, a high budget movie, and oh my god, the budget for this show. I mean, how Game of Thrones always had that huge budget, and by the time they got to season 8 it was like, off the charts. And with this show they're having to start like straight away on that level basically. They've got 10 fully grown dragons apparently. We've only seen 2 of them, and yeah, I just can't imagine kind of how much they're putting into it. And this is kind of my worry for the show is, are we just coming back with this super popular name and we're taking the most kind of commercial thing, the dragons, and then giving us like popcorn? So through this episode I was watching and I was like, are we getting popcorn, or are we getting, some of the best writing, storytelling and characters that we've ever seen on TV? And that's kind of what was playing out throughout the episode, and that's kind of what I would want to see. So, again, that first quarter of the episode, we just have the scene with, Rhaenyra, the princess, and her mother, and we have, a small council meeting with King Viserys, and we're just kind of being introduced to the setup of the Targaryens. And what I found interesting and at first kind of underwhelming is like they seemed very normal, like with Daenerys, like she was obviously such like a major character that was so different to all the others. I thought all the Targaryens would be so interesting. I thought they'd all be really hot. Like I was expecting them all to be like smoke shows, hot bombshells, and that like it was not what I was kind of seeing. But like I'll get into that later, the fact that they were very ordinary, it actually kind of like, I really like what they're doing there, so I'll get into later why I think that's going to be like a really good interesting part of the So that first quarter, everything's quite normal. And what we're just setting up is that we have this King Viserys who just seems like quite a kind of meek and mild king. And it's Paddy Considine who's playing him. George R. Martin actually said in his blog before the show came out that Paddy Considine captured something in his performance of Viserys that his George R. Martin's book Viserys could not capture, could not reach. So that's a huge compliment. And like, you can't get a bigger compliment than that. And watching it just felt very real, didn't it? He instantly kind of drew you in. He instantly just had this kind of vulnerability but this watchability. So, you know, I obviously think he's going to be like a great asset to the show. It's interesting that he's not like this big powerful king. And so, like, yeah, we just got the small council meetings, and then bam, we go into the second quarter, and that's when I was like, okay, give it to me, here's some Game of Thrones, because we get Daemon Targaryen, and this guy, I don't know if he is like the main villain, the big worst villain, or if he's just a bit bad, if he's like going to try and be a villain, but what I know is he is a bad boy, he's a fuck boy, he's the Targaryen fuck boy, and instantly we have this fantastic, brutal Game of Thrones-esque scene where he is stalking through the streets with he runs the City Watch, and they are being brutal, far too brutal. They're mutilating and cutting off people's hands, people's heads, and people's, you know, down there. And I'm sorry, but I did not like that. Like, innocent until proven guilty. Like, I did not like how like harsh she was being, but it definitely gave me that. The way they were barking, I was like, yes, you know that they're bringing back that like, you know, dynamic Game of Thrones, no holds barred world. So I was delighted to see that kind of rock and rolling back into the world. And then what I found great was we had this scene with him and Rhaenyra, with Daemon and Rhaenyra, so that's uncle and niece, and there was definitely something a little weird going on, a little bit of a frisson, and definitely a bit of a complex and, you know, twisted, the beginnings of something a little complex, a little twisted. They got on just a little bit too well, had a little bit too much chemistry, even though she's very young. So, you know, I think we're into something very exciting and dynamic there, particularly because obviously of how the episode kind of plays out. So we get all that. And then I would say that was kind of one of my highlights, their scenes, because like, tell me what jumped out to you, what relationships, what characters jumped out to you, because not that much jumped out to me. I know it's only the first episode, so there's so much time to set more up, but there wasn't so many like things that looked to be like super compelling, you know, characters that were just so unique and broad and like varied, and there weren't so many relationships that felt like, you know, like that powerful or that moving, or just, you know, just the dynamics, like they weren't really there. It was just setting up quite a traditional world. That would be like one of my criticisms, but obviously, you know, we just have to go on to the fact that it's the first episode. And they're just continuing to set things up, and they very much do set things up. So obviously Viserys is going on throughout the episode that he wants a male heir, he can't wait to have male heir, blah blah blah. Like, how many kings have we heard say that? Same old thing. His wife's going to go into childbirth. They're all sure it's going to be a boy, or he's very sure, and you know, he's doing all these things to make sure it's going to be a boy. And then we get the birth scene, and this was one of the coolest, like most shocking scenes that have been on TV, and again just gave me that confidence that, you know, like this Westeros world is back. I think actually one of the reasons why maybe I wasn't so like as blown away and as impressed and as like in love with this episode as like some people are, is that I knew just a few things that were gonna, just like the tiniest amount of things that were gonna happen. I knew there was a shocking birth scene and like really graphic, and I knew that it was gonna set up the rivalry between the brother and the daughter of the king. And for me, I like to go in just completely cold. I like to go in as cold as the Night King. I just don't want to know anything. I just enjoy things a lot more that way, and everything just hits me a lot more that way. And what I'll promise you with these reviews is, you know, to keep them like as spoiler free as possible. I haven't read the books. I'm not going to be watching trailers. I'm not going to be looking into like, you know, preview or analyzation videos, because I just think things are so much better when it's cold. And now I kind of really don't know anything coming up throughout the series. I don't think, yeah, I literally think I know nothing. So I think I might, you know, enjoy it more and more as it goes on. So we get that. I heard that scene was going to be graphic, but I did not imagine why it was going to be so graphic and why it was going to be so awful that she was actually going to be, you know, cut into. So that was great. And then, you know, it's terrible. The Princess Rhaenyra loses her mother. And yeah, let's just talk about Princess Rhaenyra a little bit. she is kind of my highlight so far, just because I think she really captures this Targaryen and this Game of Thrones vibe. I think Millie Alcock, the girl playing her, has really caught kind of the spirit of the show and has really kind of nailed something in the performance. And even though right now there's not so much light and shade, she does just seem to be like the typically good but strong kind of Pollyanna kind of princess. Just the look and everything about her, there's just a mystery and there's just something incredibly watchable about her. So she's really drawing me in, and I'm really glad that kind of it's her that we're following. So she loses her mother, the king loses his wifey, and he loses the heir, and now he needs an heir. And this is where we get into some of the politics unfolding, that he was going to give it to his brother, but his brother's just kind of too naughty, and the council persuades him that it should be somebody else. Now there's this guy, Otto Hightower, on his council, total fitty, and he wants his daughter to become Viserys' new queen, to obviously elevate him to an incredibly powerful position. So he's trying to get his daughter in there. But Viserys decides that it should be Rhaenyra, his daughter, although it seems that maybe he's just doing that to kind of throw off and insult his brother. But like that's kind of what's playing out, is that it's going to be either his daughter, or would it be his brother again, or would it be this, would Otto get his way and have his daughter Alicent become the queen? Those scenes where Otto is kind of pimping his daughter out and pressuring his daughter, who's only like 15, to go and try and seduce the king, I think they should be better. I think those scenes should be like better written. They should be more compelling. They're lacking something in the writing. I think they're missing a bit of the maybe David and Dan talent of, writing things in kind of a unique way and finding a way into the scenes that's a little bit more creative than just kind of the standard, go and comfort the king. Maybe wear one of your mother's dresses. You're the most comely girl at court. Like, I don't think that I just think they could be a lot more compelling considering. And I also think the performance of the daughter Alicent could be just like, I don't know, more led. Like, I'm not getting, like, those scenes should be very kind of captivating considering such an interesting situation is going on, and it is not so much. But I think it will get to that. Okay, so let's get into what I was talking about earlier to do with like the dragons. So then we have this scene down in this gorgeously, one of the most cinematographic like places ever, with that dragon head with all those millions of candles. I was scared just lighting this piece of incense for the video. I did it over a sink and everything. So God knows what it was like on set with all the kind of fire they were dealing with. They probably didn't use real fire for like a lot of that stuff otherwise. Oh my God, that would have been scary one. But yeah, so they having this convo, and what I loved was one of Rhaenyra's lines. Well, first it was Viserys who said, we never should have interfered with dragons. And this is what I noticed with the dragons in this series. If you look at them, they don't seem as happy as the three dragons in Game of Thrones. They don't seem as like in love with their owner, with their mother flying free. You can see, they're chained a lot. They've got the big iron necklaces. They've got saddles on them, whereas Daenerys was always just naturally just on her dragon holding onto the spikes, but they're saddled up. They're pulling at their chains. They're having to be kind of calmed down. Like, they don't seem as happy. And I think that could definitely play into it. Are these dragons actually going to be on board with them? But what was even more interesting was when Rhaenyra said, like, without them, we're nothing. We're only special because we've got them. And I was like, because like that was something that was never explored with Daenerys. Like, that stood out to me so much. Like, she was not, to me, like that special. She only had her power because of her dragons. It gave her the ability to do everything, and anything that she wanted, and we all saw what she did in the end. And she was always just able to kind of walk on water and everyone bend to her will because these animals loved her, and there was never any reason as to why they loved her. Like, what was so special and great about her that they would obey her and be with her? They just did it. It was just natural. It was just fate. It just happened. But that is just luck, and that is what made her like so special, as well as the fact she was like beautiful. And I think like that line gave me the clue that they're going to explore that. They're like, who are we without these dragons? Like, you can see how weak Viserys is and how weak the Targaryens look, and this idea, who are we without the dragons? And like, what would we be if they didn't love us? If somebody else could get control of them, could get them away from us? and like, are we actually like worth following? I think like, you know, and then can we become worth following for like another reason? I think that's going to just be so good to see and so cool to kind of explore. And I really hope that we do see that. I feel like, you know, with this series, we're going to get into it a lot more, the different layers of the dragon. And yeah, it's gonna be cool. It's gonna be like pretty fascinating, I think, to watch that play out. Then we also get this prophecy about the White Walkers. You know, the Targaryens, like, that were in power always knew about the White Walkers. Obviously Daenerys never did because she was born in exile. She went to exile when she was like 2, so she never got to find out that prophecy. But like, they know about them, so obviously they're gonna play into the show in a way which I didn't realise was gonna happen. So it just again kind of brings in another layer that everybody can be, yeah, totally sort of like fascinated about and on board with. Yeah, so basically I like, with this episode, was it popcorn or not? I did, yeah, so the ending. So then we get into, so the episode ends with him deciding to crown Rhaenyra as his heir. So it ends with this, you know, regal, kind of, you know, studious, stoic, very serious scene of, you know, the princess will be the heir, not, you know, my naughty brother. And she's sitting there seriously on the throne, she's crowned, and we got the epic music. And I like was like, that is so damn cliche. And if we're meant to be kind of like rooting for this and all excited about this, you know, ooh, and the tension is, ooh, can this woman be queen? Can she be the heir? Will they accept that? And that's what everybody is like meant to be really compelled by. Think about how the first episode of Game of Thrones ended. It ended with a little boy walking in on a twin couple committing incest, and because he'd seen them, the twin brother pushing him out of the window and paralyzing him. Like, compare that ending to this ending. That was so much more of a spicy and wild piece of writing than this. And I was just like, oh, I think this is cliche, and I think this is popcorn. I think they're giving us popcorn. Like, you know, we're just getting dragons, and then we're getting heirs, and then we're getting feminist politics, and is that it? And I was like, oh, like, don't let that be it. But guys, we're getting popcorn, like, so far, but we are getting popcorn, like, dipped in like brandy butter and dark chocolate and sprinkled over with ruby chocolate and pink sugar and glitter, like, and inside the popcorn there's a little like bit of absinthe. Like, we are getting like the most dramatic, like, you know, glorious kind of exciting show and sequences. The way that joust was directed was unbelievable, you know, a million miles better than the joust we had in season 1 of Game of Thrones. So like, I'm not worried at all. And the thing is, I know that they're setting up enough juicy things for it not to matter, basically. All right, so let's get into episode 2. Episode 2 starts and it instantly grips me more. We start off with this crab king. Who is this crab king? We start off with this sick scene. We see, you know, somebody nailed to something on a beach, and crabs are like crawling inside him, eating him, or they're eating something while they're inside him, and there's all just muscles in the flesh, and it's just grim. And it's honestly as grim and as scary as anything that we've seen, and it has almost this supernatural feel. The lighting was great, it was gorgeous, and this leads us in throughout the episode to this kind of this setup that Volantis and the Free Cities are coming for Westeros because they know that there's a weak king, King Viserys, and I love this. This was never explored in Game of Thrones. In fact, I'll confess that I like started watching Game of Thrones kind of late. It was like 4 series in, so I kind of rushed binge through the first 4 series, and I never really picked up on the fact that Daenerys was actually not in Westeros, and that was like somewhere completely different. And I didn't quite pick up that Bravos was part of like the Free Cities and like was not Westeros. I know, that's terrible confession. I know, like, totally not like fan, you know, like a good fan talk and all that, but I'm sure I'm not the only one. And it just kind of wasn't always that clear. It was weird in a way that there wasn't like this big rivalry between kind of the cities. They were totally separate, and it was like the Daenerys was going to take over Westeros, and then with the Free Cities just going to continue, like, you know, was she not going to want them to blah blah blah. So, you know, this is amazing. Like, a whole other continent is coming for Westeros because they know there's a weak king. That's going to be like a banging. That's going to be so juicy to watch. And what we have is Corlys Velaryon, who's on the High Council, who kind of is like a really experienced sailor. He knows this is going on. He seems to be like one of the most intelligent people on the council, and he's kind of telling Viserys, you know, we need to like sort this out somehow. and he kind of seems to be the man for the job, and he looks amazing. I love the like peroxide dreadlocks, and he's obviously just going to be kind of the character to watch like throughout the show, along with Otto Hightower, who's continuing, you know, this pimping out of his daughter, trying to get his daughter in there with the king, as is Corlys Velaryon. But what I love and what I'm so excited to see, I don't think that it like came out very well throughout these episodes, like there weren't any amazing scenes with it, but I think it's going to be amazing, is the two best friends, Rhaenyra and Alicent, who are like the same age, both kind of princesses, ladies of the court, you know, both lost their mothers, and Rhaenyra thinks she's going to be queen, and then her friend, her best friend, is actually going to marry her dad and going to bag her dad and going to be queen instead, potentially, and that's going to be the rivalry. And as they get older, whoever does become queen or win, that's all going to play out, you know, and she's going to be her stepmother. Like, Rhaenyra needs to get revenge on her. Like, when she's old enough, she needs to go over Otto Hightower and like get that deal for herself, because he's fit anyway. And yeah, she needs to revenge bang her dad as the vengeance, and that's how it should play out. But I hope they become enemies. I hope they're throwing acid in each other's faces. Like, I hope we get like the most twisted friendship between the two of them, because this could be set up to be like so compelling. Like, there's nothing more compelling sometimes than, you know, a good old female rivalry. It'll be a sort of Cersei Marjorie situation, but with the best friend background. So I love that, like, that setup, and I think that's going to be like really juicy to watch. And apparently that's a change from the books. They weren't best friends in the books, so that's like a brilliant change. The other thing we have going on in this episode is Daemon, again being a bad boy, steals a dragon egg, kind of goes into exile, says he's taking another wife. The end of last episode, he flew off on his amazing looking black and red dragon that looks like a bloodworm with his new whore wife from the brothel, and was saying, you know, this is his wedding day and he's got this egg, he's taken over Dragonstone. And we have that confrontation scene where Otto Hightower goes to confront him, and it's kind of, you know, we're getting that good bit of like villainous energy. I think Matt Smith's performance is like amazing. I'm loving it. It's a highlight of the show. But did anyone think I like his voice is very similar at some points to Ewan Ryan as Ramsay. He kind of is like squirming the voice and doing that like reedy evil voice. And I almost wonder if like he was a fan of the previous show and that's kind of like dripping into his performance, and it just like plays in my mind. And it's kind of what I said in my preview video, is like I just almost wish they'd got like brand new actors, not like people that we knew from other things, just so it could feel fresher to watch. But that is a silly thing to say because his performance is so good. But that's just something that kind of I did notice. And then we have, you know, this confrontation scene on the bridge. There's this big roar, and Rhaenyra flies over on her dragon and kind of saves the day and swoops all over and shows that she will be a good leader. Again, you know, a little bit like cliche. I just hope that this show isn't going to be all about showing that the woman can be a good leader too, and aren't the man all kind of chauvinistic. Like, I know that, you know, that isn't like George R. R. Martin or HBO's style to be so you know, to be so simple, and you know, they like to take things through like a lot of layers. So I'm just hoping we do get that, because we don't have these same writers on this show, which actually brings me to some news that did you hear that Miguel Sapochnik, who was like the most incredible director and was the showrunner on this show, and he's left this show because he's got like a first look deal with HBO because of how successful everything he's done has been. But it kind of suggests that like he's doing this show because it's like the most competitive IP, but now he's going to leave it. It's just going to be Ryan Condal in charge. And I do feel like obviously, of course, good for him. I love his work, so I kind of can't wait to see what he does next. But like, I do feel like George R. R. Martin, like his work like deserves to have people who, because obviously Dan and Dave like left it and like left us without like more series that many people craved, and like this work, like it does deserve to have people that are really passionate, that like are gonna follow it through to the end, not people that are just doing it because it's a popular IP and then might abandon it, and then we as the fans won't get like the full-blooded, like full-throated story the whole way through. So that was kind of like a concern. Very interesting little bit of gossip, a little bit of breaking news for you. Obviously more breaking news as well, as it's been renewed for series 2, so bring it on. And yeah, we see all those politics play out. It ends with Viserys deciding to marry Alicent, so let's see how that goes. I literally can't wait to see next episode and see how everything plays out between the two queens. We've got the queen who never was being a bit of a bitch to Rhaenyra, so I hope we see a lot more of that, because that was also super juicy. A lot of small council meetings, so maybe could do with less of those. Maybe we want to expand the world a little bit more. We've got Matt Swift's new wifey or girlfriend, who's from the whorehouse, the brothel, and I find her gorgeous, and I've, you know, seen before, as in with all the other characters, she just brings like a different vibe. She brings like a different energy, and like it just kind of, it brings a different mood is what I mean. So I'm loving seeing her, loving the long hair, and her whole speech about like you know, she's with him because she finally wants freedom. I don't know, I just think she's going to be really interesting. I think there's a lot we can do with her, and I'm glad we're like expanding the world and seeing where things go with her and Matt Smith. I hope he's not too mean to her. Maybe there'll be like a true love story. I think, yeah, I think there's a lot there, and I think they've got some good chemistry, those two. And I love her dresses, and yeah, I just think this is like a good addition. I just think the more the world expands, the more we're going to love it, basically. So even though I've had quite a few criticisms, in a way I'm being kind of silly because we really are only 2 episodes in, and I just know they're giving us so much, and I just know the direction is so good that it's going to be like, yeah. Or you can see how excited I am to watch episode 3, and I'm sure you are too. In a way, there's not too much more to say, except let's just get to that final scene that we see that naughty Crab King again, and Corlys, you know, reveals kind of just how bad he's going to be. We know he's coming for Westeros. We know he's going to be awful. He's going to have everyone getting eaten inside out, and he's just one scary, scary man. I can't wait to see what he's going to get up to. I think he's scarier than the Night King. He's obviously, you know, into like some weird, dirty forms of torture. I feel like he means we're going to be on like the salty seas in this series. So that is going to be so much fun to see. And then, of course, because Corlys' daughter does not get picked to be, you know, the new wifey, he then goes and teams up with Daemon. And we have a good scene between Daemon and Corlys that they're kind of going to be going up against Viserys. But Daemon still has kind of Viserys' back. And, you know, things aren't smooth sailing. There's still a lot of kind of fighting between the two of those. So yeah, it's kind of a dream team. And you just know that that's going to be like, that's kind of the politics now shaping up. And that's like, it's really kind of set up the show well. It's them versus Otto, and Viserys just kind of being a bit of a fool, really, and getting lots of swords, and that's kind of his story. So yeah, I wonder how long Viserys is going to last. How long is Viserys for this world? Let me just check that that's where like, better than the OG, I think. And I can't believe they used the same song. I did not expect that at all with the original Game of Thrones tune. But yeah, not a bad idea, I think. I'll take it. Alright, I think that's everything. I know this was a little bit rushed and a little bit manic, so sorry about that. And sorry for the late review. I just kind of had to get this out, and wasn't able to watch the show for a good while, so I was only able to watch 2 episodes together. So I'm going to be coming back with, you know, some more detailed stuff, bring on some more guests, and anything else you want me to talk about and discuss, any characters and stuff you want me to focus on, I will. So enjoy. Stay safe on your dragon, hold on to your reins, and see you soon.